lagging actually. And if you have fractional chief marketing officers on board who are power users, then they can actually help you optimize that at all times. They're also the sense checkers. I call this like the adults in the room, right? Because the AI does play around with different things, and there needs to be someone at the end to say, whatever has come out of this, does this make sense? And is this actually the right thing to do? And I think that's important, especially for you as a founder when you're getting started. It's otherwise extremely risky, I think, to just leave it and let it run as it's gone out, right? And this needs to be someone, again, who knows what good looks like, so who's been there and who's created this for many years, this sort of work. And lastly, of course, the real-time application of new features. I already mentioned the speed. Jess and Mavic are releasing new features every 2 weeks. Nobody can stay on top of that if you have a million other things to do in your role as a founder, right? The fractional CMO can stay on top of it because they're constantly trained, and therefore they can give you that competitive edge. And so moving on, so this is now where it gets interesting, I think. Because if you think of marketing as a founder and you think, at what point do I ramp up my marketing now, right? Is it too early? Do I even have the funds? How do I allocate now my spending here? And you probably would think of marketing as it is on the left side, which is how we have run marketing as small business owners or as founders of small startups for a long time. Means you start building a team and it's one person, then it's two people, then it's three people, but you have in the blue line a fixed staff cost in there, which will stay either it will stay flat or it will increase eventually because you need to add more people to the team as you add your spending also, right? Now, if you think of this new model and you take this technology and you take the fractional CMOs, what you can do here is you can actually dial up and down both your staff and your spend, otherwise the investment that you have in marketing, as you need at any given month, any given quarter, depending on whether you have campaigns or you have other things that you want to roll out, or maybe you want to dial down because you're fundraising and you currently cannot allocate the funds there. You dial down the entire team, you dial down the fractional CMO, and therefore it gives you an incredible amount of flexibility going forward to actually run your marketing effectively for your growth. And I'll leave everyone with this, and now we jump into the exciting technology that Jess has to share with us.
Thanks, Moritz. So I think from here, the question is really, how do you be able to do this kind of investment, right? Where you don't go into the fixed investment. This is where, when you have a technology like Mavic, which I will show right now, you actually create the backbone for your business. So let me, share. And can you see my screen? Yes.
Yes.
So, great. This is a look of Mavic. It's always very exciting to show what we are building to everyone out there. So the difference, when you log into Mavic, the first thing you would see is that Mavic is designed to be your brand's dashboard. So this is actually catered to every single brand. So this is dynamic. And what you can see on my account here is that I have many different brands already connected to my account. So I can very easily switch between different brands. So if you're managing one brand or different brands, you have a portfolio of brands, then you have a workspace that's completely customized to that specific brand. But what kind of customizations am I talking about? I think typically when people talk about customizations for AI, they're thinking brand, color, logos, fonts, etc., maybe personality and writing style. The difference between with Mavic is that we actually help you think strategically about how your brand differs from competitors and how it's relevant to customers. So the first time you create an account on Mavic, you will get something called the Mavic, your first Mavic report. To be able to get this report, all you need to do is fill up an onboarding form, as you can see here. So you just need to fill up this very simple form, tell us what your brand is about, give us some sentences on who your customers are, where they are located, put in your competitor website URLs, put in your social channels. And when you just fill this up in 15 minutes, this report will be generated. And I will show you that in today's demo. Once you click into the report, This is where Mavic has done the homework to really understand what your brand is about so that we can use all this information to contextualize AI and to give you customized ideas to what will actually drive your business. So everything on this report is from publicly available sources, and it's configured based on your inputs in the screen before that. The first thing we do is based on the website you give, we will try to curate all the information that you already have publicly available about your brand. So in this case, I'm using Mavic as an example. And we can also get information from social channels, such as, how big is your community, etc. But then the interesting thing is we do the same for your competitors as well. We look at your competitors' website, we crawl through it, and we are able to give you an executive summary on what your competitor's brand is about, what are the benefits they are claiming to their audiences, the list of products and services that they are recommending from their website. We lift the marketing key messages. So we even can see how they're positioning themselves. And similarly, we also go and look for the social channels connected to that brand and bring that information to you. And we can do it at scale. Imagine being able to do this analysis for 10 competitors or for 20 competitors at the same time. But that's not all, right? Because that's like a lot of information. So besides pulling all that information to you, we then use our domain expertise to now give you recommendations based on what we understand about your brand and what we understand about all the competitors you have. The first recommendation we give you would be customer profiles. Customer profiles come with the detail that you need from where these customers could be located, the industry, business size, what are their purchase channels that they have, key features, goals, etc. And all of that is interactive. So you can save it to your Mavic brand book. On top of that, we also give you things like personalities. Again, now the personalities are not just ideas from the air, but it's ideas based on how we are able to position your brand versus the competitive set. And we also give you recommendations on your brand positioning. So how do you position yourself? What's the uniquely differentiate you from what other competitors are claiming? So these are like for businesses, for example, it would be a standard value proposition statement for the kind of customers you're looking for. Unlike your competitors, how are you different? And you can add this again to your Mavic account. We then give you recommendations on then the content that you can be talking about for your business. And this comes from the analysis from competitors and customers, and also the latest market trends based on the day you initiate this report. We then give you recommendations on marketing strategies, like how should you be building brand awareness, consideration, etc. How you can build, what kind of marketing channels you should be going on to, what is your posting frequency, and finally, 7 days of ideas from the date. So as you can see, this is a full report that we can do with the help of AI, the right data pipelines, and the right AI domain expertise as well, but it's still a lot of information. So you do need to sift through it and understand what decisions you take from this report. But beyond the report, right? Once we get the report in place, that's where we now have the context of your brand. So we know, okay, this is what your brand is, how your brand is different. Now let's go into something interesting. Let's now start creating marketing ideas. And the idea generation, the idea playground is very simple. It's this chat interface. And just going into the example that I've prepared before, you can give a very simple prompt like this. Give me social calendar idea for the week. I need 10 ideas across like these channels. And Mavic will give you the response. 2 things I want to highlight here. The first is because Mavic already understands your brand, you don't need to give additional prompts when you're asking for requests, like ideas. You don't need to give additional detail that, your prompt doesn't need to be like a full 1-pager. It can be very simple. The second thing is the ideas that we give are actually engineered so that you can very easily save the idea, create content from the idea, expand on the idea, or copy the idea into another platform if you need to. So all of these are idea cards that's very unique to Mavic platform. And all of these ideas, if I like any of the ideas, I can simply click expand on the idea. And Mavic will be like, okay, let me give you more detail on what the idea could be. And if I really like the idea, I can immediately click create content. And that's where the idea is transformed into a full content piece that I can now either publish directly, save as draft, or schedule it onto my calendar. So this is the difference between how when you have a platform where you have an AI platform that understands your context, anyone can come in and use this idea playground to get ideas that they need for the different channels and easily transform all these channels into content. But of course, when you create content, that's not enough, right? You need to track the content. So that's where we have things like analytics to be able to understand, oh, what's performing well, what's growing, and use this analytics and take additional optimization for future ideas and future content. The last thing I want to show would be the chat interface. So of course, so earlier, the idea playground I showed you is very idea-centric, is in the form of content cards. But what if you need something more? What if you need like automated marketing research? So earlier, I actually did this instruction to Mavic, help me conduct research on how Duolingo builds their community and bring me top 3 practices relevant to Mavic. So because again, Mavic already knows, right? This is what Mavic is all about. These are all the products from Mavic. It conducted automated research for me. So it went online, Google search, read all these different websites, and then it used the information from the website to give me these top 3 practices. So that's where a platform like Mavic could be quite powerful, because once you start on it, what we'll do is we'll keep collecting information about your brand. And then it really comes down to how you want to interact with Mavic, either through this chat or through Idea Playground. And whatever ideas you get, how do you want to make it into actual content? So with that, so that's the demo that I have. Over back to you.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you. And I think it shows amazingly how we can use Mavic to supercharge an experienced marketeer, right? I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I really look forward in a minute to hearing from Leroy and Mark, and you will see that they really show the application of some of this in some real life situations that could be very relevant to you. But before that, we do have some questions. Please ask away. I see there are already some in the Q&A. There's one from Sian. Maybe Jess, could you read it out? Because now I'm on the screen sharing.
Yeah. So Xian is asking, what connectivity does Mavic have to other CRM systems, for example, HubSpot, Salesforce, etc.? That's a great question. Integrations is something that we are working on. So earlier I spoke about being able to connect to productivity workflows. So we do have this in the pipeline. We want to be able to use the brand context, come up with great CRM ideas, and then pipe that into places like HubSpot. We also want to look at a two-way integration so we can track the performance and bring that back so that you can do better ideas. Yeah.
Excellent. And then we have one from Sora. How is this different from SEMrush?
Yes.
Is that something you can answer, Jess?
Yeah, I think it's quite different, because SEMrush is very much more from a website traffic perspective, very SEO centric, very long form content. You can see that in Mavic, we do not limit ourselves to just the data that we collect from direct channels, for example, from SEMrush, but we also look at strategic, like we allow the AI to conduct its own autonomous research from publicly available sources. So that really expands the data that we can bring in and give you different ideas. Should I go on to the next question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next question is from Tina. How much is it? Right now it is, we have a free license. So I know everyone will go and sign up for a free trial, but for our paid licenses, we start at $48 per month and $79 per month. And the difference is really with regards to the tiers. Like $48, you get 2 people being able to use the account, and then $79, you get 3. And also for both, you do get unlimited AI support, like unlimited AI generation right now. So yes, please check it out. And the next question is, do you feel that this approach can also work for startups that are B2B? So I think we should answer this from both perspectives, Moritz. So
Yeah.
maybe you want to answer first?
Yes. So thank you for that question. I think this is super relevant, and I mentioned earlier that when we match fractional CMOs, we always match them industry specific. Not only that, we also match business model specific, because it is a world of a difference whether you're a B2B marketeer, a B2C marketeer, or whether you have worked with direct to consumer models or even B2B2C on a platform, right? And so this is actually probably even more important than industry matching. And this is core to this. And this is also why we have a wide bench of fractional CMOs. Leroy and Mark are here today, but we have more fractional CMOs on the bench to be able to give that variety and really match against something that match against most companies that we see out there in the market. The real benefit for you then is that the fractional CMO can hit the ground running, and this is really the goal here, right? Nobody has time for a 60-day, 90-day onboarding. The aim is always to hit the ground running and actually start making an impact within 2 weeks. And that's what we provide through this very, very precise matching also. Yeah, that's from the fractional CMO point of view. On Mavic, I think back to you, Jess.
Yeah. So, and the reason why people can hit the ground running is because if you already have a system like Mavic that collects the right data points, so the experts can come in and read all this information and quickly take the right judgment calls. In addition to that, I think from just a platform perspective, B2B startups actually work very well on Mavic, because B2B startups need a lot more value-driven content. You need more research. You can't have hallucinated content. You can see that we have a lot of data actually piped into the system, and we do better on things like LinkedIn carousel, LinkedIn text, long form content. So I think the combination of the fractional CMO and Mavic is actually a very good approach that for startups that are B2B. We have one more question, so I can read it out. So the next question from Xiang is, to generate the brand report, how important is the brand's social media component to build a current view and to recommend positionings and strategies? Because a startup may not have these channels up and running yet. So from again, I think that from a platform perspective, when it comes to marketing, right, the more data you have, the more informed your recommendations can be. And if you don't have data, then you would need to rely on experience and expertise. But at the same time, without that, there's always judgment calls, right? So with the base level of AI that we have, that's already different from ChatGPT, is that we've already put in kind of a level 1 domain expertise to guide it, so that the recommendations on positioning and strategies are based on your inputs, and it will give you whatever it can with and without the data. The difference is with more data, then the better the output could be realistically. Yeah.
There's one more from Saurabh. Maybe we take the, it's fantastic to have so many questions, honestly. Thank you for being so vocal. I think one more, and then maybe we go to the case studies, Jess?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Saurabh is asking, does Mavic give the success analytics of any marketing content or campaign so that we can understand how my campaign went with AI marketing? The answer is, this is right now in the pipeline. So you already see that we have analytics, and you already see that we have brand report. So what we are going to do next is to be able to connect the dots. Unlike a lot of platforms that have been around for a very long time, where we look at the final outcome, right? And the outcome gives you the analytics, and then you just kind of give an analysis on the final output. Is the colors good? You know, is this person there good? Is the font good? Right now with Mavic, you have the ability to track from idea, what went into the idea, what was the idea's hook, all the way to the performance analytics. And that's actually the very exciting thing that we have planned in the pipeline, which is why we are chasing. So the short answer is, in the near future, yes, but right now we are still working on it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, really, and please keep the questions coming as we go along. If you have more, we will have another slot in the end to also be able to answer whatever is still coming up now. And can I move forward or not? Yes, I can. So if you recall this graph, right, and this is really just an example. It depends on where you are in your current situation. And so the big question would be, what approach is right for you at this point in time? What do you need right now? And if you're not clear or you don't know what that is, different ways to get started, right? But figure out your options if you like with us. First of all, happy to have a call. We can do a 1-hour call to discuss your current challenge, to see where are you at right now, what would be a good strategy for you. If you want to know otherwise how we can work together, there's different, very flexible and scalable options. We sometimes run only strategy workshops if that's all you need, and then you're good to go. Or there's different levels of ongoing engagement. And then to the question on costs, also this varies depending on how deeply engaged and how intensive the engagement is that you require at any point in time, again, given the curve that we just looked at, right? So very, very much we work on this in partnership, right? So come to us with your challenges, come to us with your goals, and we will do everything we can to figure something out to make it work for you. And with that, I'm really excited now to hand over to Liru Chan.
Thanks, Moritz. Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. So as Moritz introduced me, I'm Liru, and I have 20 years of experience in marketing and comms, and thanks for having me on today. So you have a great AI marketing assistant like Jess showed, right, to do the heavy lifting. How do you anchor it in a marketing strategy? So I'm going to start with product market fit. That's the holy grail for all startups, right? And marketing's role within product market fit is really to identify the right customer, craft the right message, and deliver it at the right time through content as well as channels. Basically, right customer, right message, right time. It sounds very doable, doesn't it? But I think we can all appreciate that the reality is much harder. So let's take 2 brands to illustrate this. The first brand you see here is DBS Payla, and the second is Wise. Both very successful brands in money movement. What do you notice? And there are really some clues already on the slide. Essentially, if you look at the first column, both DBS Payla as well as Wise, they have the same product capability, which is to send and receive money. But different customers, and hence they have different positioning and a channel strategy and content strategy that's very different. DBS Payla is targeting millennials for everyday use cases, and Wise is targeting expats who want to move their money overseas. But both essentially have the same product capability, right? Send and receive money. It's the positioning that clearly illustrates who they are trying to target. DBS is positioning as the ultimate everyday app, and Wise, the positioning is money for here, then everywhere. So looking at these 2 brands, the takeaway here is that your product capability can be very similar, but your positioning matters, and your brand only becomes differentiated when you speak to a clear audience in mind. So both DBS Payla and Wise achieve this, being very targeted in their audience and positioning. So it seems like simple, right? But if you take a step back and you think about the space your brand is in, how similar or differentiated is your marketing? Yeah. So let's take another example. In Singapore, the robo-advisor space is heating up, and it's becoming highly competitive. There are players like Endawas, Saif, and Stashaway, and more. So for someone like me, who is very keen on making my money work for me, I have been targeted by both ads from Endawas as well as Saif. And these are both their ads that I've come across. So what do you notice again? For me, I noticed very similar brand colors. They both advertised on the same channel. They both have similar value proposition and messaging around 0 fees. And there are more ads with similar messages around their investment expertise and good returns. So as a customer wanting to choose a robo-advisor, is there a clear standout brand for you? Well, at least for myself, as someone who is looking to invest, I really couldn't pick between either. Yeah. So when you market to everyone, essentially you market to no one, right? If you go to the next slide, you can't be all things to all people. Your customer wants to feel unique, seen, as well as heard by you. It sounds really intuitive, but the reality is sometimes in all our quests to stretch our marketing budgets and to maximize it, we all start with the right intention of, being very targeted. But then the doubt kind of sets in, and you kind of go like, oh, but are we missing out on this audience or that other audience? And that's when the broadening starts, the widening starts, right? And that's when you land with a very kind of general proposition that sadly lands with no one. So instead of maximizing your dollars, the opposite is true. It becomes a drop in a very big ocean with a very limited ripple effect, right? So getting back to this framework of right customer, right message, and right time, this approach can help you get clarity for your brand strategy really quickly. So who is the customer, right? We talked about that. And what is your company getting the customer to do in a very unique way? So if you look at the middle framework, which is the get to buy model, essentially it helps you to crystallize what your company is helping the customer do, achieve, and by what unique approach, right? So for example, we take Endow Us again. One of the product capabilities that their competitor doesn't have is the ability to invest in SRS and CPF. So for people who are not based in Singapore, that's basically like forced savings by the Singapore government. So a more granular positioning for them could be, we help people who want to make the most of their SRS and CPF savings achieve X percentage of growth via our proven and cost-effective platform. Something like that, which is so much more specific than we help people grow their wealth. You're talking to a very specific audience of people who want to invest their SRS and CPF savings, who want a specific percentage growth, and through a unique approach, right? And then lastly, in a world of content, how is your company planning your content mapped back to business and audience objective? Do you have a learning agenda? Do you test and do you iterate in a disciplined, scalable manner? So instead of a very general message or creative, right, that you put out to the market, there could be 3 core versions of right customer, right message, and right test, and right time that we test, iterate, and learn continuously. And with an AI marketing assistant like Mavic, we're so lucky to be in these times of being able to turbocharge and learn more and scale more quickly. If you think about the traditional marketing setting, you would try to research for your customer profile. You would then sit down with the go-to-market product team to kind of brainstorm different approaches. You would then sit down with a content and creative team to try to come up with content and creative. But we've just seen just now with the demonstration that Jess gave us that there's easily a way to turbocharge your marketing and test and scale and bring different creators based on a strategy to market really quickly. So with that, I'm going to pass over the time to Mark. Thank you, and Mark, over to you.
Mark, you're on mute, my friend.
Classic.
No worries.
So in terms of bringing a little bit more of a general picture into the situation, what when you're thinking of scaling an organization, sorry, I haven't introduced myself. So the key factor I think can be a little bit helpful in this is I've worked in marketing. I worked for Unilever marketing, but also did key account management, working with large retailers. Samsung, I did some strategy there. Hewlett-Packard set up their B2B digital manufacturing business and worked with several startups in Asia focused on medtech and fintech. So that has given me, and I've done go-to-market, BD, I've done I've supported customer service functions, partnerships. So I can see a little bit the aggregate picture. And I think that's quite important because for me, the function of marketing is never communications, purely communications. It's always much more integrated. And then when you look at what a brand should be, it's a little bit what a company should be. Ideally, you think it's going to be, you're going to put some pieces, you're going to have great communication, and you're going to deliver this perfect world. But in reality, Jess, if we can move to the next slide. The next slide where we see what a disaster actually marketing is. Okay, this was a GIF. It was quite funny as a GIF, but it's a picture. But basically, if you have ever watched this is the IT Crowd, one of my favorite TV series, and a great representative of what actually life is. You plan, but then it's an absolute mess. So actually, when we look at all those challenges, and then if we can go to the next slide, Jess. What are the challenges I've faced and I think are quite, as startup managers, as startup CEOs, as marketeers, as drivers of business, you're going to find team continuity is one of the key challenges I found. Okay, some of the data, but then shows that basically from Carta shows that around between 15 to 25% of employees rotate in a startup, especially the early days, and much more in critical hires. There's an examples in my times in one of the medtech startups, right after COVID, half of the marketing team seemed to be going because after the COVID crisis, when things opened up, a bunch of young people, which normally serve those organizations, left. That has an enormous impact. If you're running marketing without guardrails, that has an enormous impact in your performance because the people, the talent, all those learning curves leave. That's absolutely critical to have continuity. Coherent strategy. This is a very big challenge in the era of all measurable, but not all predictable. And this happens a lot when companies are trying to expand. I'm using examples of my history. In this case, Shopback. Shopback is a rewards company that integrated financial services. How do you communicate that? What is going to change? But also, very important, how is that going to change your end-to-end process? You can communicate whatever you want to customers, but internally, your product needs to, your organization, your sales, everything needs to reflect that. And that is driven by product marketing and marketing communication itself. And it has to be quite coherent. Another of the challenges that you will find is bang for your buck. And this is, and here I put the sources of this. I don't care for a great IG post or TikTok. I want marketing engine that delivers predictable results. The source is a ranty CEO friend of mine. Okay, but I would say every CEO I've heard this. I don't care if the ad campaign is great. You don't need to care. What you want is a reliable machine that delivers in a predictable way. I'm using the example of Samsung because when I joined them in 2013, 14, they had found that machine. It didn't work forever, but they had found it because Apple had driven the awareness of the market, and they came with more features with a cheaper. At that time, they were cheaper. Samsung was cheaper, and they were pressing their marketing machine because everything they pressed, they could sell because they had the perfect positioning riding on top of Apple. Okay, I work with a friend. I had a friend in Spain who managed a business. He said a lot of marketing companies were just living on Samsung budget. That was how effective they were. And then ownership, very important. 20 to 30% of your budget, depending on the peak periods, depending on the size of your company, is going to be running on marketing if you're a startup. And most of your hopes, if you can't deliver on marketing, is the communication of what your product does, you're done. Your hopes are from zero to, you're not going to be able to achieve. So then when we go to the next slide and a little bit connecting it to the picture, what we've been talking about, the key factor here are things that we believe that we need to focus on. The key factor is that what's more important, and I would say, is not so much things are measurable. Okay, I think it's very important. Things are measurable, but they haven't become so much better. What is key is that they're predictable as much as possible. Measurable can take you to the pit. You are actually to predictably grow. And that's key. You need someone you can trust. Okay. There's sources that say that most CEOs don't trust fully their marketing team many times because they don't understand what's going on. It's very important you have someone like this. Predictable path. This is where machine learning systems will help you scale, give you guardrails to elevate what your team can do. Profit focus. This is where it's very important. Not only having a system through the machine learning platform, but also the talent that is profit focused. All you want is to make money. You want to grow, but to make money, you have to have some level of maturity and seniority in your organization to be able to drive to that direction, which is all you want, affecting whatever part of the business it is. And very important, big picture. someone with maturity and experience, I'm someone with 18 years of experience, will be able to tell you, okay, we actually need to look at this thing holistically. If you change communication, you need to change product. If you need to change product, you need to change backend. If you change backend, you need to change team. That's very important. A seasoned leader having the full picture with a marketing system that helps is going to be quite impactful. So that was a little bit the picture of how all these challenges from marketing organizations to with new tools and with seasoned leaders, you can actually overcome them.
Superb. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Liru. I think both of you, show hopefully quite nicely of the incredible impact this experience that Liru, Mark, and others like them have in just spending a day, 2 or 3 a month with your organization, and then using an AI tool like Mavic to roll that out and actually and actually get very, very cost-effective execution also. Is there any questions at this point? We only have a few minutes left, but if there's any questions, this would be a good time to raise them. If not, of course, we're all available and reachable, but I don't see any more in the chat or in the Q&A at this point. Great. So as I said, oh, I see one coming up. Sian, do you see marketing agencies as a market for you? What size? I think this is a question to Mavic specifically, right? I think. Jess, you want to take it?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. We have partnership with marketing agencies. The great thing about our platform is that we are designed to be enterprise grade. So even though we are quite early in the journey, the kind of the foundation that we have in place is because, we've been working with experts from Flexer team a lot as well. And that really gives us a lot of kind of feedback and guidance in how we can make it kind of enterprise ready and actually bring real value to the brands that are on the platform. So the short answer is yes. And the size really varies. We have agencies using it that are just 2 people, and we also have agencies using it that are like 3,000 people.
Thank you. And a last question, I think, from Saurabh: how can we streamline the content pillars, and how often should we change that? This could, yeah, I'm up to you. Who would like to answer this? Jess, you want to take it?
I think I can take it from a platform perspective. Definitely you can change it whenever you like, but it'll be interesting to hear from, for example, Liru or Mark, right? When you are a brand going to market, how often do you streamline the content pillars?
Yeah, so from my perspective, content pillars are strategic pillars, right? So they exist because they represent a certain value propositions or proof points of your brand or your product, right? So for me, they're evergreen, but the content within the content pillars, that's when the fun begins. That's where you have different messages, different creative, and that's where you test and learn. Obviously, if you are in a stage when you're trying to figure out market product fit, you could change up the content pillars, but I would caution against doing that too rapidly, just because you may not be spending enough time testing different iterations and determining and learning what works best. So in my opinion, content pillars are evergreen because they represent your value proposition as well as certain proof points of your brand or product. Yeah.
And then we have a question. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Align with Liru. I think that you can change the how, but the what you're trying to say, you need to keep steady with that, and you can't change the pillars frequently.
And that's a great segue to the question about keeping steady and consistency. Rupsa is asking, as a startup, messaging is very important and repetitive messaging is crucial. Can you share some more thoughts? I think, this is so perfect, right? Do you want to take this, Mark?
So I like to use the example of Apple. If you think of Apple, I remember when I was working in Samsung, we would look at their devices, just the device, how repetitive they were, how they seemed the same. They look very similar, the iPhone 10 to that has become a strength long term. Everybody knows what to expect, and everybody can transition through one device and another without any problem. So just a little example of something that any marketeer 10 years ago would have told you, oh, Apple is making a mistake by not creating differentiation. Okay, and we were in Samsung and we were convinced, oh my God, Apple is so wrong on this. And that's just on the product side. But in communication, if you think of brands like Dove, Axe, all these Unilever gigantic brands, they've been pounding the same message. That's why now people go to a supermarket. The products are, look, 99% the same, but the arms of the consumers keep on going by the millions to pick those brands. And that takes a while, and you need to repeat the message to change people's minds. In reality, marketing is changing people's minds and thoughts. So that takes a while, and you need to be consistent.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, Rupsa, you actually have a really enlightened view of messaging as well as repetition, because sometimes I feel like in this digital world versus the traditional way of advertising, it's so easy for us just to test a new creative, right? But that doesn't actually give us the discipline of having it in the market long enough to see whether it gains traction and whether people can remember it. I remember when I was working in comms at Edelman, we used to run this thing, and we used to say that people need to see the same message 3 to 5 times in order to believe it. And this was before social media was really, really prolific. I think if we look at the stat now, it's probably 10 to 15 times, right? Yeah. So I think you have a very enlightened view in terms of how repetition is very important for your business as a startup. And keep that, because sometimes it's so tempting to just switch out when you feel like, oh, 1 day into the campaign, 2 days into the campaign, it's not working. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't forget that the algorithm is not your algorithm. It's the platform's algorithm to maximize. Let's just think, when you're putting content on social media, the algorithm, who do you think is supposed to benefit the most? The platform. So a lot of the performance issues of some campaigns are related to not that it's not the right message, but to the engagement in the platform. You might be benefiting from that, or that might be the right message, but the platform doesn't benefit, so it starts to downgrade the results of your campaign. But maybe it's exactly what you want.
Yeah. And bringing it back to also one of the core challenges Jess talked about in the beginning, which is the frequently fluctuating teams, right? When we're talking about consistency of message, it also has to be retained somewhere. And what we often find is with the team switching out or external people coming in and out also is that we do stop, start, and every time we start from scratch again, right? And the beauty of Mavic is that Mavic remembers all of this. It's a reservoir of your strategy, it's a reservoir of your brand strategy and your brand pillars, and it can be taken over by new people joining, external or internal, and deliver that consistency of brand for better outcome for you in the end.
There's actually one more question from Rupsa. So if I were to read it out loud, if you have assumed position in your industry, like say within top 3, but how to overcome that and become the leader?
I think that's something that we could pick up offline, Rupsa, because I think that's very specific to your situation and to your company situation, right? But very happy to answer that separately. And if you'd like to just send me an email, moritz@flexer.ai, it's already on the screen. And happy to have a conversation with you. We can also bring in Jess and Mark and Liru to the conversation as needed. Yeah, I think that would be best. We're very approachable, as you can see in the photo. Don't hesitate, please, to reach out. It was an absolute pleasure to get such an engaged and also so many questions from everyone, and fantastic questions, all the right ones. So thank you so much. Any last words from anyone in the group?
Thanks
Jess,
for having
you want to
us.
wrap up? Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Great.
So I think that if you're interested to find out more and get a more in-depth demo, please feel free to email myself as well. We are very happy to organize a personalized demo as well.
Excellent. Then have a great afternoon and evening, everyone.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks
See
for
you.
joining.
Bye, guys.
Bye.